Assalamualaikum and a very good day to everyone. My name is Shafika binti Yusuf and I am from Group 18 together with my other two team members, Intan Nurdania binti Asrul Amir and Rohil Surya Varma Kunasegar. So today we are going to present about responses of faults in different attributes, a case study from Malay Basin Field. Okay, so let us proceed to the abstract. Actually, this study is about the identification of faults in different seismic attributes that we carried out from the 3D seismic data of the Malay Basin Field. We choose our study area at Group K because this is the group where we can see a lot of faults. And in order to make the comparison fair, we choose the same inline throughout our attribute application, which is inline 4742. And actually the aim of our study is to choose the best attributes in fault interpretation compared to its original seismic data. So a total of 5 attributes have been applied, which are variance, chaos, instantaneous frequency, local structural dip, anti-attenuation attributes. And from these 5 attributes, we found that variance and chaos attributes proved to be the best attributes, followed by local structural dip. And the other variants, which are instantaneous frequency and anti-attenuation attributes, did not give clear view of the faults. Okay, now let's go to the brief of methodology. Briefly, this study is carried out using the Petrel software. And before we start, we actually insert a well inside the seismic data so that we can distinguish all the groups that we can see inside the seismic data. Okay, then let's go to the workflow. So as you can see here, this is our workflow in doing this study about responses of faults in different attributes. Okay, first of all, we load our seismic data into the Petrel software. And like I mentioned previously, this is a seismic data from the Malay Basin Field. And next one, we insert the well data that contains the stratigraphy information about Malay Basin Field. Like I also mentioned earlier, to identify the group with the major faults. And the third step, we choose the inline that we can use throughout the study in order to compare all attributes that we have applied in the original seismic data. So in this case, we choose inline 4742. Then after that, we pick the horizons so that we can highlight the focus area of our studies. So we choose the top and bottom horizons in the seismic data section. And then after that, we apply attributes separately. The 5 attributes that I mentioned previously, which are variance, chaos, instantaneous frequency, local structural dip, anti-attenuation attributes. And then we, for each attribute that we apply, we adjust the color scale so that we can find the best resolution that we can possibly find to enhance the faults. And then the last one, we observe the faults and compare the attributes, which means that for each attribute that we have applied on the seismic section, we observe the occurrence of the faults and the resolution, and then we compare each attribute with the others so that we can choose which is the best one for fault interpretation. Okay, so that's all for my part. Now I'm going to pass to my colleague Rohil. Thank you.
Good morning everyone, my name is Rohil and today I'll be presenting on the results that we have obtained from our study, which is the response of faults to different seismic attributes. For our study, we have chosen 5 attributes, which is, firstly is the local structural dip attribute, the variance attribute, the chaos attribute, the instantaneous frequency attribute, and the attenuation attribute. But before we get into those attributes, I would like to show you the original seismic data from what have we observed, we can only identify the presence of 3 faults. The first one being here, the second, and the third. And now I would like to show you the observations from the other seismic attributes that we have applied. In this image, this is the same seismic data with various base coherence attribute being applied to it. Various base coherence attribute is an age method which measures the similarity of waveforms or traces adjacent over a given lateral or vertical window. The darker colors in this seismic data using this attribute indicates the presence of low similarity between seismic traces or waveforms, which are mostly connected to, or which are mostly related to discontinuities by faulting or stratigraphy. But in our case, we are more interested in the discontinuities related to faulting. So, as you can see, a total of 4 faults were identified using this attribute, represented by the dark colors and helped indicated by the red arrows. So the first one being here, second one being here, the third one being here, and the fourth. This attribute is good as it helps provide a good contrast for the fault to the surrounding, compared to the surrounding, which is indicated by the black, and with the background being a light color, white. And moreover, it also does show the extent of these faults, or how deep does the fault go to, which was not seen clearly in the original seismic data. Now we are looking in the same seismic data with the chaos attribute being applied to it. The chaos attribute measures the lack of organization using the dip and azimuth method. Okay. In this seismic data, using this attribute, we have identified the presence of 5 faults, with the first one being here, second, third, fourth, and fifth. These faults were highlighted in a darker color compared to the lighter background, which provides a good contrast. The darker colors in this attribute indicate the zones of max chaoticness, which highlight the presence of disrupted reflectors. Next, we are looking in the same seismic data with the local structural dip attribute being applied to it. The local structural dip attribute is an age method which designates rapid changes in the local dip, which are commonly related to fractures or faults. So, what's special about this attribute is it determines the structures through the dip of the reflectors. So, in this image, we can clearly see the presence of 5 faults, which are indicated by the red arrows, with the first one being here, second one here, third one here, fourth, and fifth. This attribute is useful in the interpretation and identification of faults. However, not all seismic attributes can be used for the identification and interpretation of faults. In this image, this is the same seismic data with instantaneous frequency being applied to it. As you can see, the faults do not give any sort of response. The presence of faults were determined due to the displacement of seismic reflection in the bottom horizon. This attribute is not suitable for the identification of faults, as we cannot determine the extent of the fault or how deep does the fault go to. The last attribute that we have applied is the attenuation attribute. As you can see in this picture, the faults are not really visible to the interpreter. As you can see, we can only identify 3 faults present in this using this attribute, which makes it very poor, which makes attenuation and instantaneous frequency to be not as useful to be used as fault indicators compared to a local structural dip, variance, and chaos attribute. In conclusion, the local structural dip attribute, the variance attribute, and the chaos attribute are the best attributes to be used to detect the presence of faults. Moreover, this study shows that not all attributes can be used to detect subsurface structures such as faults. For example, such as the instantaneous frequency and the attenuation attribute, which did not provide any response for the faults. Furthermore, this study shows the importance of attributes in seismic interpretation, as some attributes will amplify and enhance certain subsurface features such as faults, so that the interpreter may provide a more accurate interpretation of the seismic data. This is the end of our presentation. Thank you.